Okay, let's get started. So we began learning how there is a relationship between the event of the giving of the Torah and the passing of the Baal Shemtov and the passing of Dovid Hamelech that all occurred on the same day. And the Talmud says, Megalgun Schus Leim Zakai, that a day which is meritorious, because it has this merit, so other things are naturally or supernaturally rather brought to happen on that day. So there's something about the giving the Torah that began then that was later developed more by King David and further by Baal Shemtov. There is more than one talk of the Rebbe on the subject, but in what we're learning so far, the Rebbe says that what's unique about the giving of the Torah is that when Hashem gave us the Torah, there was a revelation of Hashem in all of existence, and everything was quiet, everything felt at the time Hashem gave us the Torah. There's nothing besides Hashem. And although that revelation stopped, but that did have an effect on all of creation to the extent that it became possible after Har Sinai, after that event, to do a mitzvah and to bring Hashem's holiness to the world. So a mitzvah wasn't possible before. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, although they were great tzaddikim, they were not able to bring holiness to the physical world the way that we can. And although they began the process and prepared for it, but they didn't really have the ability to bring holiness that should stay in a physical object. And after the giving of the Torah, it became possible to do a mitzvah. So what changed things was this revelation Hashem gave us in Har Sinai. The revelation was the game changer. So Hashem describes in the Medrash what happened at Mount Sinai. And the way he describes it is there was a decree between Hashem made a decree to separate the higher worlds and lower worlds, and then Hashem annulled the decree. And Hashem said, "I will go down to Mount Sinai first, and then I will be the higher worlds will descend to the lower worlds, and I'll make the first move." And then the lower worlds will ascend to the higher worlds. Moshe Rabbeinu will ascend to Har Sinai. That's what happened chronologically. But Hashem, in describing this in the Medrash, it says the first thing that happens is that the lower worlds ascend to the higher worlds. The reason why it's said that way, even though that's not what actually happened, the first thing that happened was the revelation of Hashem. But the reason Hashem said the second thing first, Hashem first spoke about the revelation of Hashem in the world first, is because, mention the elevation of the world, the elevation of the earth towards heaven first, mention that because that's the goal. The whole purpose of the revelation was to facilitate this revelation. So the elevation of the world, that the world becomes a vessel for Hashem's light and the world becomes a place of holiness, that the possibility started then, but through Dovid Hamelech, it really became perfected. How it's perfected through Dovid Hamelech. So there's a couple of things that Dovid Hamelech introduced in the time of David that did not exist before. First of all, Dovid Hamelech was the first king over all the Jewish people. I know Ari is right away thinking about Moshe Rabbeinu, or Maimonides says Moshe Rabbeinu was the king. Melech. Okay, but Dovid Hamelech was the first monarch that of the dynasty of King David, which is eternal. So it wasn't all the Jewish people. David was first in all the Jewish people. Second of all, David Hamelech built the Beis Hamikdash. David Hamelech made the preparations for it, and the actual building of the Beis Hamikdash was to show. So we actually mentioned last time we were learning how David Hamelech, he was the seventh in his family, like Moshe Rabbeinu was the seventh from Abraham. So Moshe was beloved. He brought the Shekhinah to reveal in this world. So David Hamelech also did a similar thing, but more than that, David Hamelech was the 14th generation from Abraham, and Shlomo Melech was the 15th. So the 15th generation brought the building of the Beis Hamikdash. 15 is significant because all of our holidays are associated with number 15, because the moon is full on the 15th of the month, and the Jewish people, compared to the moon, the full light of the Jewish people is there, revealed on the 15th of every month. And so to Shlomo Melech, who was the 15th generation, he's the one who builds the Beis Hamikdash. It's built already, right? Shlomo Melech, the first Beis Hamikdash. We're waiting. Want it to happen today? What do you mean? But what's those? Why are those two things relevant to this theme of elevating the world towards Hashem? So the idea of a monarch, of a king, isn't just something about governance. The king is the one who leads the people out into battle, like he's the one who decides the agenda of the finances of the country, or the medical system of the country. Or the king is called by Maimonides the heart of the Jewish people. And the obedience people have to the king is very different to the kind of obedience we need to have towards all other matters in Torah. In all other matters of Torah, there is a difference, there's a distinction between what kind of thing Hashem asks us to do, vis-a-vis the severity of not doing it or doing. If you decide to skip a few pages in davening, you don't get the death penalty. If you decide not to have kavanah in davening, you also get the death penalty. But if the king asks you to do something, you don't do it, you get the death penalty. And the reason for that is because, as Maimonides says, the king is called the heart of the Jewish people. Their existence depends upon him. Why does their existence depend upon him? Their existence depends upon Hashem. So the Tzemach explains the whole reason Hashem gave us this mitzvah of a king. Our intent in having a king wasn't for good reasons, as that's why Shmuel rebuked us when we asked for a king. We just wanted to be like everybody else. So we want to have a king, so we should be like all the nations. But there's a mitzvah in the Torah to have a king. So Tzemach says, what's the point of having a human king? The point is, the king is supposed to be a perfect tzaddik. And by him being a perfect tzaddik, and him being the representative of Hashem's kingdom on earth, that causes your relationship to Hashem to be so much more real, and so much more down to earth, and so much more vivid and palpable and vibrant. Because your existence certainly depends on Hashem keeping you alive, and the king is the one who transmits to you the will of Hashem. He's the one who is telling you what Hashem wants you to do. So that's why when the king asks you to do something, there's no difference between whether or not the kind of thing he's asking for is important or not important, because the king is. It reminds me of the way the Rebbe describes a prophecy, that also regarding a prophet. If a prophet tells you, Hashem says you should have a cup of water, you don't have a cup of water, get a death penalty. Why get a death penalty? Just a cup of water. If you would ask the prophet, is it so important? You say it's not so important, but Hashem said you should do this. The reason why you get a death penalty is because in the prophet telling you to have a cup of water, it's not like you're reading a book, the will of Hashem. You're hearing a direct message. Hashem gave you a DM. A DM message is stronger than a message in a chat. Torah is Hashem's message to us in a global chat. So it's not like he's directly asking you. He is directly asking you. It doesn't seem as direct. And therefore, the reason why there is that penalty for various averos is not because you're disobeying the king of all kings. The reason is because of the severity of the specific crime that was done. But when you go against the words of a prophet, since the prophet is telling you directly the word of Hashem, therefore there is it's severe. It's like they're going directly against Hashem. In a similar way, because the king is representation of the will of Hashem on earth, so just like your existence depends upon Hashem, so your existence depends upon the human king who is representing the will of Hashem. And therefore, when you go against the king, you're going against your very existence. And therefore, you can't get death penalty. So that means that before there was a monarch, we had ourselves, and Hashem gave us His will, and Hashem's will was something which was superimposed upon us. We first exist, and Hashem, since He has His likes and dislikes, those are His mitzvahs and His averos, and He tells us this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and there wasn't such a gravity to obeying or disobeying what Hashem said to do. Depends on what it is, what it was that Hashem said to do. But once Hashem introduced the Jewish people the idea of a monarch, the idea of a king. So now the relationship to Hashem, the relationship to the king, takes on this whole new immediacy. It's the whole Torah became a lot more harder and faster. There is a human being who is telling you the will of Hashem, and you have to do the will of Hashem. and he is representing the will of Hashem, and he governs the country. It makes all of Yiddishkeit so much more real and alive. And that's why the King David, he took this idea of the lower world, sent to the higher world to a level. He took it to a perfect level where the world itself, it's not just Hashem gave us this revelation from on high and nothing to do with us, but it became our natural reality is keep the Torah, and that's your life. Your life is Torah. King David, by Jewish people having a king, it made Torah not just become something that we do, but Torah become our very life itself. That's also related to the other thing that King David did, made the preparation for the building of the Beis Hamikdash. Although we had a Beis Hamikdash, we had a Mishkan, a temporary tabernacle, we traveled in the desert, first of all, it was temporary, and didn't permit the space that it was on. But the Beis Hamikdash, the temple, became a permanent space for Hashem, and not just a permanent space, but there's an argument between Nachmanides and Maimonides about exactly how God's holiness rests in the temple. One opinion is that, as the way Chassidus describes it, it's sort of like the way information is transferred from your mind to your hands, where your hands do have some information from your head, but it's not that your hand itself thinks. It's just like it passes through your hand. Versus the way information, the way your intellect is housed in your physical brain. There, the brain itself, the physical brain, is your mind. Your brain is your mind. Your brain is what thinks. So in a similar way, there's a discussion about the holiness of Hashem, and they say, did it become part and parcel of the physical thing, that the physical walls and stones and roof and floor of the Beis Hamikdash, or was it just something that passed through it? So the Rambam says that the place itself becomes holy. Interestingly, there was a concept also by the Mishkan of the earth. The Torah in this week's parasha, Rosh Hashanah, talks about how the Seita, in the process, take from the floor of the Mishkan. So the floor of the Mishkan, although it doesn't remain holy, there's still some significance there. It's like Mount Sinai itself, that while the revelation was happening, it was considered holy. But what was unique about the gift of the Beis Hamikdash, it caused permanent holiness to that spot. To the extent that even after it's destroyed, it still remains, still has the same exact holiness as it had before. It still has, well, not exactly the same, but it has some, the Kedusha still remains. This physical space became holy by virtue of Hashem's light resting in it. So we have now these two different kinds of convergence between the higher worlds and lower worlds. We have the first kind, which was revelation of Hashem at Mount Sinai itself, which was amazing. You saw Hashem's presence in a very vivid and amazing way. And then we have King David, who brought Hashem's reality to be our own reality. You have a space in the world you can go to see Hashem, to see Hashem's miracles. Yeah, you want to see Hashem, the miracles happen over there. You want to touch Hashem's Kedusha, there's Kedusha in those stones. So that caused a perfect ascent of the physical world towards heaven, so that the physical world itself became holy. So those are the two models of this relationship, this convergence from above to below, from the higher world ascending to the lower worlds that happened at Sinai, and then it's from below to above, the world ascending towards Hashem, and that happens through King David, and that happens through having a Jewish king and having a physical temple. But the perfect model is to have both, because there's an advantage in each. It says about the Beis Hamikdash that there's two stones, Shoyam and Yishveh. One stone is a bright stone, a blinding stone, and one stone has more of a pleasant light. And it says Mashiach will come, they need to have both of those stones, Shoyam and Yishveh. Why? Because Mashiach's coming is about both things happening. Mashiach's coming is about there being an incredible light of Hashem, something higher in the world come to the world. And at the same time, not only should this thing which is otherworldly come to the world, but it should be something which is part and parcel of our experience. It should become us, it should become the way we actually look at the world. So that's only going to happen when Mashiach will come. But when Hashem gave us the Torah, there was already the potential for that. At that time, when Hashem nullified the decree, that made it possible for that to happen. at the moment Hashem gave us the Torah, all we had was the higher worlds, the lower worlds. And the other two events happened later. The idea of the world ascending to Hashem happened by King David. And the union of both, of the higher ascending to the lower, and the lower ascending to the higher, that will happen when Mashiach will come. But the preparation for Mashiach is through the Baal Shem. The Baal wrote in a letter to his brother-in-law, Rabbi Gershon Kitterer, that he asked Mashiach will come. When will Mashiach come? Mashiach said, I'll come when your well springs will spread to the outside. So the revelation of Mashiach, which has both revelation from above to below and elevation of the world to Hashem, that's something that Baal Shemtov made the preparation for us. We'll see how he did that. But just the interesting thing about the relationship between the Baal Shemtov and this idea of the fusion of heaven and earth in these two ways, the word Baal Shemtov has a relationship to the coming Mashiach and to this fusion of these two kinds of revelation. Shemtov's name is Yisrael. Yisrael, like Abraham was attributed as Chesed, Yitzchak is attributed as Gvura. Yisrael, the third of our three patriarchs, is associated with Tiferes. Tiferes is also what we have in mind. We're going to say in davening soon. To you, Hashem, there is greatness and might, and Tiferes and beauty. Beauty is associated with giving the Torah. The word that's the first name of Baal Shem Tov, which indicates giving the Torah. Then there is the Baal Shem Tov's second name, which is Shem, Baal Shem Tov. Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov. What's Shem? Shem in general is associated with the sphere of Malchus, which Malchus is divine energy within creation. And it says in the Talmud, Hashem walked for 500 years to get a name. So that, without going too deeply into what that sentence means, the name of Hashem is Hashem's energy in creation, about the world being elevated towards Hashem. So Hashem means elevation of the world towards holiness. The Yisrael Baal Shem, what does Yisrael Baal Shem mean? That the reason why the world is elevated is not because of the world pulling itself up with its own effort, with its own energy, but the Yisrael Baal Shem. It's because of the great power of Yisrael. That means that there is the in Malchus, in this sphere of Hashem, which is an animated creation, there is something of toiv, something of goodness, which is the light of Hashem that is that's beyond the energy of creation. It says about Moshe Rabbeinu also. Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was born, it says he was good. The house was full of light. By Moshe Rabbeinu, his light was because of his neshama, but his body wasn't considered to be at the same level of holiness, and that's why his body needed to be buried. But Baal Shem Tov said about himself that he was able to go up to heaven without being buried. And said he could have gone up to heaven like Eliyahu Navi. Why was he able to do that? It says about Eliyahu Navi, his mother was pregnant with Eliyahu Navi's gestation period was for 12 months. Moshe Rabbeinu's gestation period was 7 months. The Baal Shem Tov said he could have gone to heaven like Eliyahu. He was going up with his body to heaven. So the reason why Baal Shem had that special virtue was because, unlike Moshe Rabbeinu's purpose, he had a very short gestation period. Moshe Rabbeinu's gestation period was 7 months. Shem's gestation period was for 12. I'm sorry, Eliyahu Navi's gestation period was for 12 months. Why? Because Eliyahu Navi's mission in the world wasn't just about revealing the neshama; it was about the body being elevated. And that's why Eliyahu Navi wasn't buried. Moshe Rabbeinu was buried. Baal Shem Tov, he only chose to be buried because he wanted to have the fulfillment of the pasuk. It says in Torah, you come from dust, return to dust. But the reason why his body could have been elevated in that way is because his mission wasn't just about revealing light of Hashem like Moshe, it was about elevating the physical. And in a way, Baal Shem Tov is higher than Eliyahu Navi because Shemtov, which is the name of Baal Shem Tov, is higher than the purification of Eliyahu Navi. Why? Because the purification of the body of Eliyahu Navi calls the Zichach of Ban. I'm not going to get into exactly what differences between Ban and Ma, but Baal Shem Tov says Shem Tov. That means that the light of Moshe Rabbeinu, light of the neshama, was also in the body of the Baal Shem Tov. So Gam Hashem L'Torah, by Baal Shem Tov, even the level of the body, even the level of the physical, was also the same level as Ma, same level as Neshama. Man Ban are, okay, it's a bigger subject. But either way, so the Baal Shem Tov, how did he do this? How did he cause this preparation of the coming Mashiach? You see in his name, this idea of the convergence of these two energies, but how did he accomplish this? So the Baal Shem Tov did two things. First of all, he took the 10 commandments and revealed the 10 commandments in a way that was never revealed before. He revealed the secrets of the secrets in the 10 commandments. He revealed something which is otherworldly. He brought to the world something that wasn't there before. He revealed his deep secrets of the Torah that weren't there before. But he also revealed something else. There are 10 utterances that Hashem made the world with. Let there be light, let there be a sky. So Hashem didn't just reveal deep secrets of the Torah. He also revealed the 10 utterances that animate all creation. Baal Shem Tov revealed here that the world itself is God. He taught about divine providence. And everything that happens in a leaf blown in the wind is by Hashem's hand. He taught how Hashem creates every creature every single moment. So unlike Dovid Hamelech, who did this in a certain space in the world, that there was a space of revelation of Hashem in the Beis Hamikdash, Baal Shem Tov caused everyone to realize that the world, the 10 utterances that animate creation, they are constantly there in creation, keeping everything in existence. So it wasn't that Baal Shem Tov just brought something to the world that was otherworldly, revealing the secrets of the Torah. He revealed the world itself. He revealed how the world itself is Hashem's holiness. And how did he reveal this? What was Baal Shem Tov's method in showing us the truth of the world? He didn't do this from the world itself, by telling us that the true existence of a cup is from the energy of Hashem. Says Hashem's energy that makes it a cup. Baal Shem Tov brought a pasuk in Torah. It says in the Torah. The Torah says, this part of this pasuk. You say this pasuk 150 times in Rosh Hashanah. Right? So what does this pasuk mean? Now, Hashem, your words are forever in the heavens. So Baal Shem Tov said, what does that pasuk mean? That the word of Hashem that says, let there be a sky, it's constantly recreating the sky every moment. Every moment God is commanding again that there should be a sky, and if for a moment God's energy would not be in the sky, it wouldn't be there. So the way that Baal Shem Tov revealed Hashem's truth was through Torah. So Torah is about Hashem's revelation from above to below. And Baal Shem Tov revealed in the world how the world itself is holy, and how do you reveal the world itself is holy? Through Torah. How the world itself is godly. You reveal that through Torah. So just like Mashiach comes, what do you say is going to happen when Mashiach comes? There'll be two virtues. First of all, there's going to be a revelation from above. In a way that's amazing. Something just otherworldly. Something just above the world is going to come to the world. Something just higher. The infinite light of Hashem is going to be revealed. But how is it going to be revealed? It's going to be revealed here in a very down-to-earth and natural way that'll be vivid to us. So Baal Shem Tov, he made the step, the preparation for that to happen, because Baal Shem Tov did two things that are very similar to those two events that happened in Mashiach will come. First of all, he revealed the secrets of the Torah. The secrets of the Torah which are otherworld, which are above the world. And second of all, not just did he reveal something which is above the world, he also revealed that the world itself is godly. And how do you know the world itself is godly? Again, it's through the Torah. That's basically the one more interesting point about this. Why is it that in the holiday of Shavuos we have passing of Dovid, passing of Baal Shem Tov, and they're not all, the Torah doesn't describe all these three events in the same place. The giving of the Torah is described in Torah. Passing of Dovid Hamelech, it's said in the Jewish law mentions it, but the passing of Baal Shem Tov is something which is only known because of Jewish custom. So the reason why this is revealed through Jewish customs specifically is because there's something about Jewish customs which are hiding in this. Why? How is the custom hiding in this? Because, in short, Hashem tells you explicitly what He wants you to do. So it's coming from Hashem telling you to do. You do what Hashem said to do. Then there's something that you do on your own because of you, because of something within you. So that's the reason why there are Jewish customs, because a Jew and Hashem are one, And therefore, Jewish people on their own, they know what Hashem wants them to do, and they do what Hashem wants them. So there's something, it's coming from, that's why the Simcha on Sukkot, the greatest Simcha is not on the holiday of Sukkot. It's not either when we dance throughout Simchas Pesach Sheva. The greatest Simcha, Simchas Torah. Simchas Torah is only a custom. It's a mitzvah to be happy the first night of Sukkot. Happiness is tabriva, not so full. What is it, the perfect Simcha of Sukkot? And Simchas Torah, why Simchas Torah? Because Simchas Torah is a Simcha which comes from the essence of the Jew, comes from within ourselves, comes from, not because Hashem told you to. So in a similar way, the Baal Shemtov, his unique contribution to the Holiday of Shavuos, which is about the preparation for Mashiach, is associated with Jewish customs that are beyond the laws of the Torah, beyond the laws of the Chachamim. It's something which comes, it's in order to connect the higher world and the lower worlds, as Mashiach will come, it's only the power of God's essence. And the power of God's essence, which is related to Jewish customs. You see Hashem's essence more in Jewish customs than we see in mitzvahs. So that's why the Baal Shem Tov's passing was revealed by Jewish customs, not in the Torah, it's not in Shulchan Aruch, because it's in order to have the coming Mashiach. What's the coming Mashiach about? It's about the power of God's essence, which is beyond the parameters of the world, and that's why it's able to converge them both. And that is directly related to Jewish customs, which are not limited to being in a certain revelation of Hashem, they're coming from on high. Rather, it's directly from God's essence. The main thing is that we've learned Torah Baal Shem Tov, to share Torah Baal Shem Tov, to prepare for the coming Mashiach, and who was a descendant of Dovid Hamelech. Any questions or comments? All right. Yeah.
Not necessarily making something in common what
Okay. It's a bigger subject than for today, but it's in the Talmud. It's in the Talmud in where is it? I think it's in Chagig. I don't know the source right here, right now. You are. All right. Sure.